figured I'd do a real quick tutorial for you to show you some basic things on faces. Alright, so first things first is you want to start with the basic head shape. It's going to be kind of sort of like an ovally shape. You want the top half to be a little bit more round and the bottom half to be a little bit more pointy depending on the type of face shape that you're drawing. After that, you'd want to have a line of symmetry very lightly drawn along with an eye line. This is where a lot of people mess up, is that they think the eye line is higher up on the head. The eye line should be the center of the face. So you have just as much space in between the center of your eyes and the very top of your head as you do from the center of your eyes to your chin. So make sure that you get that correct, okay? Alright, so the first thing I usually like to do is I like to start with the nose. You can start with the nose or the eyes, doesn't matter. But for the nose, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of mark about a third or about a little bit less than halfway down the face. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly draw a circle, like this. And then I'm going to draw little parentheses off to the side, like this. And then I'm going to draw a little frown on the inside. I'm going to draw a little smile on the top, like this. This will create a little simple nose shape, so I'm going to draw that a little bigger so you can see that. So if you draw a circle very lightly, and then if you draw little parentheses on the side like this and this, careful not to go too much further past the little circle. And then you can do like the little nostrils, just make sure that there's a gap between the nostrils and the edge of the nostril flares. And also make sure that they don't touch, so you want to leave a gap all the way around those nostrils. And then if you do like a little small smile above it, this is more or less for like the shading purposes, so like you don't have to draw that super, super dark. And then, oops, I don't have an eraser. Well, I guess I'll just try to scrub. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so then whenever you erase it, you're left with a very simple nose shape, so that whenever you go to shade it, you would shade below that little smile that I just drew. And then you just go around like this. And then I'll make a simple nose shape, okay? Alright, so after I have drawn my nose, then what I would do is I'd go up from the corner of the nose, go up until I touch that line and put a dot. Corner of the nose, go up until I touch the line and put a dot. This is going to tell me how wide I need to make the eyes apart. So if I start with drawing a simple frown, like this, and depending on how realistic or stylized you want it, you can exaggerate that frown if you want to. After you draw a frown on both sides, make sure that they're about the same size. They should be the same width as the nose, because your nose is the same width as your eyes. Alright, so after I do my frowns, then I'm going to do a simple smile, like this, and a smile. And then I can draw like my iris and my pupil and all that. I usually leave a little highlight on the inside of my pupil, but that's kind of up to you what you want to do there. Alright, then I would just do a simple frown very close to the eye. This is going to be the eyelid. And then for the eyebrows, I'm just going to do a slightly thicker frown that's going to be starting off kind of flat and then curve down. So start off kind of flat and then curve down. Then what I would want to do is I want to do the mouth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go below the nose, a little bit higher than the chin. I don't want it to be super close to the bottom, but I don't want it to be so close to the nose that it's going to touch. So I'm just going to go about maybe a third down in between the mouth and the chin, or in between the nose and the chin. I'm going to start off with just a simple line, like this. Now, if you want to do more of a cartoony style, you can just leave it like that. I usually like to make the corner of the mouth a little bit of a dot to make it kind of a little bit more of a smiley face. If you're doing the lips, it's going to be a small divot, so you want that upper lip to be kind of like where you draw a smile in the middle, and then you just connect it to the corners. And then you usually shade it in because your upper lip is usually in shadow. So all I'm doing for that lip is I'm just drawing a simple line, like this. And then I'm just doing a small smile, and then connecting it lightly, like this, and then shading it in. If you want a larger lip, just make that bigger. If you want a smaller lip, just make that smaller. Alright, and then for the actual bottom lip, I'm just going to draw an indication of drawing just a little smile. And then I usually don't like fully connecting it. I'll just kind of like almost connect it, just because I feel like that feels more natural. If you want them wearing lipstick, though, of course, you can connect it fully, and that'll make it feel more like that. Alright, so below the mouth, I want to make sure that the chin is visible. So if I don't have a distinctive chin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a big smiley face down below. And then I'm going to keep that kind of a diagonal line after that until I get across from the nose. Once you get across from the nose, that's where your cheekbone is. So it would look kind of like you have two diagonal slopes until you hit that smiley face, and that's where you would have a curve. Alright, so for ears, they would be across from the eye and across from the nose. So that's going to tell me about how big I need to make my ears. So then I would just do a little parenthesis, like this, and then connect it down to the bottom. Little parenthesis, connect it down to the bottom. And then there's like a little bitty C shape and a backwards C. And then I just do another C on the inside. And you can make it more complicated than that. I usually don't make the ears too complicated though. All right, for the hairline, I'm just going to do a frowny face above, kind of like splitting in between the eyebrows and the top of the head in half. You can make that bigger or smaller if you want. And then for the neck, I'm just going to drop it down like this, making sure it's not too wide but not too thick. And then I'm just going to do a diagonal line out for the shoulder. Now, if you want to know how wide your shoulder should be, it should be about half your head. So make sure your shoulders aren't too wide, but make sure that they're also not too narrow. So half a head wide. And then I can do like a little t-shirt line or something like that on the body if I wanted to. All right, so now for the hair, you can do any hair you want. I'm going to do short hair on one side and long hair on the other side. So if I want to have some shorter hair, I would do kind of like little Z shapes. So a Z line is just where you're going like this. It's kind of like a zigzag line, but if you imagine it using like parentheses instead of straight lines, and also adding variety so you can make them change in different directions. All right, so I'm just going to add a little Z line on the tip of the hair. You can also do a staggered Z, which is where you do a couple of these and then you do a couple of stray marks followed by a couple more textures. So I'm just going to do a little straight mark all the way until I get in front of the ear, because you have hair all the way until you get to the front of the ear. And then on the top, if I'm doing shorter hair, I'll just add a little bit of that texture. Notice that I'm adding some couple random stray marks, and I want to do that above the headline. I don't want that to be in the headline, otherwise I'm cutting my head a little too short. So here you can see what it would look like with a shorter hairstyle. Now I'm going to do a longer hairstyle on this side. So if I have longer hair, I might either have longer bangs where I'm going to use longer lines. You can also tuck it behind the ear if you want to, and then you just kind of draw it going towards the center of the head or wherever the hair part is. And then if you have longer hair, you're going to have more volume, so you want to make it stick up more, like this. And then you can make it come down. Now if you have more curly hair or wavy hair, feel free to add some more waves to it. And then if you have like a shorter haircut, you would do like some textures going until you touch the neck. It's very important that you go behind the neck, because if you don't, you're saying that you're bald on the back of your head. So you want to make sure it goes until it touches the neck. And then you can fill in some more space on the inside. If you have longer hair, just keep going until you get either behind the shoulder, or if you want to, you can go in front of the shoulder like this. And then I'll make it feel more like long hair. So hair can be pretty fun to play around with. Just make sure that the hair has enough volume that it doesn't look flat on the head. So you can make it get a little bit taller. The curlier your hair is, typically the more volume you have. So if you have more curly hair or wavy hair, you might want to add a little bit more volume on the top of the head in order to get more space for it. All right, so there's a very basic how to draw a face.